All right, let's just jump right in. Most of us know the fifth book of the Bible by one name, but it actually has two. And you know, the difference between those names, well, it unlocks this profound secret about the power of words to literally shape reality itself.
So on one side, you've got Deuteronomy. It comes from the Greek deuteronomion, and it basically means second law. Kind of sounds like a legal document, a repetition of rules, right? But its original Hebrew name is Devarim, which means the words. Now that's not just a different title, it's a totally different way of seeing the book, not as some static code, but as living, active speech.
So right away, this sets up our central question. What's the real difference between a law that's just written down and a word that's spoken and alive? The answer, well, it's hiding inside one incredibly powerful Hebrew concept.
And that concept is devar. What is so fascinating about devar is that in Hebrew, a word isn't just a sound you make with your mouth. Nope, it's a speech act that is completely inseparable from the reality it creates. The word is the thing. So when Moses speaks the Devarim, the words, he isn't just giving a dry history lesson. He's re-embodying the entire covenant. The words are also the things, the matters, the events themselves. You see, they have weight, they have real power. And this shows us exactly how speech can build reality. But it also means speech can tear it down.
Okay, so let's see how this plays out in a real story. Because this power gets tested almost immediately after creation gets a fresh start. And what we get is this incredible story of two competing words spoken over the very same world.
So, picture this. After the Great Flood, God makes this universal promise to Noah, a blessing of stability for the entire earth, a divine word of blessing. But right after that, we get a very human story. Noah gets drunk, and in a moment of shame and anger, he speaks a curse.
You have to understand, in ancient Hebrew thought, a curse, kalala, it isn't just an insult. It's a speech act, a devar, that actively works to diminish someone's reality, to make them light or less substantial. It has real, tangible, destructive power. And this is the curse Noah speaks over his grandson, Canaan. It's a human word that tries to fracture destiny, to limit inheritance, and to introduce servitude into a world that God had just blessed.
So this sets up this huge tension. On one side, we have God's expansive, life-giving word spoken over the whole earth, and now on the other, we have a diminishing, limiting human word spoken over a part of it. The big question is, which one gets the final say?
The answer, the antidote to a destructive human word, turns out to be a more powerful, divine word. And it's forged in a place you might not expect at all. I mean, it's actually pretty simple when you think about it. The only thing that can overcome the reality created by a negative word is a stronger, truer word that creates an even better reality. And here's where it gets really cool. This is the linguistic masterstroke. The Hebrew root for devar, word, is dbr. Well, guess what? That exact same root forms the word for wilderness, midbar. The wilderness is literally the place of the word. It's where all the human noise and claims are stripped away, so the divine word can finally be heard loud and clear.
And that number, 40, it just keeps popping up, doesn't it? 40 years for Israel in the wilderness before they enter the promised land. 40 days for Moses up on the mountain receiving the words. 40 days for Jesus in the desert before his ministry. It's this recurring pattern of preparation happening in the place of the word.
So the wilderness, the midbar, it serves this really crucial purpose. It makes sure that when the people finally enter the land, the very land of Canaan that Noah had cursed, they don't do it with brute force. No, they do it by living according to the divine devar they learned and internalized back in the desert. But just hearing the word, that isn't enough. The covenant had to be integrated in two really crucial ways. Externally, on a scroll, and internally, right in the heart.
Deuteronomy gives us this beautiful balance. The future king is commanded to physically write his own copy of the law. This binds his power to the external, written word. But for the people, the focus is internal. The word has to become a part of who they are.
I mean, this is one of the most radical statements in the entire book. The devar isn't some distant command way up in the heavens or across the sea. No, it's intimate. It's right here, in your mouth to speak it, in your heart to feel it, so you can actually do it. It's a living presence inside you.
And what's so amazing is how this idea evolved. Later Jewish tradition took that specific duty for the king and basically democratized it. The rabbis ruled that every single individual has an obligation to write their own Torah scroll.
It makes the act of receiving the covenant this deeply personal, active commitment.
Okay, so this brings our whole story together. How does this living, internalized, divine word finally and fully resolve the problem of that destructive human word of curse from so long ago?
We've followed this incredible arc, right? It starts with Noah's curse, which fractures the world. Then Moses delivers a covenantal word in the wilderness to begin healing that fracture. And in the New Testament view, this whole arc climaxes when the word itself becomes a person to absorb that curse completely.
The Apostle Paul, one of the most influential early Christian leaders, makes this super explicit. He argues that Christ, the living word, takes on the ultimate curse, death on a tree, to completely exhaust its power. By bearing the curse himself, he redeems it from the inside out.
And this just brings the whole transformation into sharp focus. The conflict between a word of curse and a word of blessing, it's resolved. The curse actually gets folded back into the blessing. Speech is reunified. The distance and diminishment created by the curse are totally replaced by the promise and the nearness of the word.
So the ultimate takeaway here is that God's blessing is sovereign, it's more powerful, it establishes a principle that you can hear echoing across cultures. A divine word of life will always, in the end, overcome a human word of diminishment. And that leaves us with one final and I think vital question. If a devar, a word, is also the thing it describes, if our speech truly has the power to build up or diminish reality, then we all have to ask ourselves, every single day, what kind of reality are our words creating?